Hi everybody, I hope this works. Unfortunately, you're going to have, since I'm learning some new streaming software, a few moments at the beginning of this video of me peering in very intently and looking at the video and looking like I don't know what I'm doing, because quite honestly, I don't. But what I wanted to talk to you about, if this works, and we're going to together find out if this works or not, is the use of proxy dolls in healing. Now, a lot of what I do in terms of working as a professional witch for hire is healing people by remote. And by healing, I mean what I do is go into a person energetically, rearrange their energetic system using a healing system that's based on the Olympia but extends a little bit further to realign their chakras, work with their auras, and basically get them all cleaned out. And through this system, I can remove entities, I can even demons and things like that. I can remove the toxic energy that's around them. I can get them all cleansed and cleared, take out attachments to the past, sometimes addictions and things like that, especially through further work. And the way that I do that is using a proxy vessel. And that is how I'm able to work on a person from a distance. Now, I also do these cleansings in person at my shop at Crossroads Metaphysical Store in Shingle Springs, California. That's crossroadsoccult.com if you want to connect with me through that shop. However, I also do it by remote, and I love doing that because there's a lot of people that are not local to the Sacramento area, which is our biggest town that we're close to, and can't make it into the shop. And this way I'm able to help people who are at a distance. And I've actually worked with people all over the world, and I do a lot of cleansings and clearings this way. So I wanted to talk to you about how that happens. And a lot of people have said, is this something like a voodoo doll or like a puppet for hoodoo or for other magical works, folk magic? And it is very similar in that we're using what I call a proxy vessel, which is something that's not the person to represent the person during the healing. So I think it's best if I just go directly into how I do that, and then you'll kind of see what I'm doing. Also, I want you to meet these guys. These are my proxy vessels that I use most often. This one over here is Barracuda, and this one right here is Meredith McRae. And I tell you, these guys together have been hundreds of people in their time and have taken the hits for a lot of people. They are wonderful conduits for healing, and I enjoy them because they're very bendy, so I can get around them really well. They represent the body quite nicely, and I can move them around. They're lightweight. You can really use about anything for a proxy vessel, but I prefer plush animals or stuffed animals. I don't tend to use Barbie dolls or hard animal or hard proxy dolls. Even though they look more human than Barracuda does, I can't bend them around. It's harder for me to infiltrate into them because of how hard the substance is. I prefer a softer surface to work with when I'm working for someone. So I will use Barracuda or Meredith McRae, depending on which feels best for the client that I'm addressing at the time. So when I'm working with a client to do a healing by remote, I always ask for a photograph and I ask for a date of birth. These two things help me zero in on that person better. And sometimes people will send me a picture of them for 10 or 12 years ago, and that's great because I can still connect with them. But the challenge is I want to connect with them now. So it's usually best if it's a photo from the last month, or especially at least the last year. And then the date helps me zero in even a little bit tighter than that. So what I will do is I'll, on my computer screen, have the picture pulled up, so I'm really getting eye-to-eye contact with this client that I'm working with. And sometimes I'll get a client who wants me to work on another person, a spouse, a child, someone else who's not them. And of course at that time they have to provide a picture of that person. So I can go in and really get eye-to-eye contact with that person through the picture and connect with them that way, and the date of birth helps me personalize it a little bit more. So first I spend some time really connecting with the person I'm going to be healing, the target of the healing, and then I take, in this case we're going to use Barracuda, and I lay him out and I put my hands to each side and connect with him and ask that he receives that person to help and to heal. And then when I feel that that energy of that person has gone into my proxy vessel, I can begin to work on that person by remote. So there's all these steps that happen before I get to the point of even doing the cleansing at all. I'm really having to connect energetically with the person through the photograph and the birth date, and then I'm having to get their energy to go into my proxy vessel so that I can work with them. Once I've done that and established that connection, I can then do to the proxy vessel exactly what I would do to the client if the client were here in front of me and I was working to heal them. So I'm going to do the sage bath that starts the process. And usually even before that, I will take my pendulum and run it over the primary chakra points over the proxy vessel and get a reading on the client. So I can look at each of the chakra points and tell that this chakra is misfiring, this chakra is hyperactive, this chakra is locked up and not responding at all, this one's in open fight or flight. Anything going on with the chakras I can catch through the pendulum and know what's going on. And that tells me some of the areas I need to focus on especially. And of course, as a healer, there's times I know we're going to have a hyperactive heart chakra because I already know from talking to the client that they're going through a breakup, or I know that this person's having problems with the security, so they're going to have a first or even a second chakra flare up, so that it's really locked up tight or that it's wide open and in fight or flight. So I do the preliminary with the pendulum, and then I start the sage bath, get them all nice and saged out. The way that the sage operates tells me where the dense energies are in the client and places that we need to clean out a little bit more and pay deeper attention to. As I'm doing the saging, I'm also sending Reiki healing energy and any type of energetic adjustments that I need to do to those chakras while I'm doing the saging and while I'm watching where that smoke is going and where is the smoke really dense and where is the smoke lighter. Once I've completed the sage bath and I feel comfortable that that's done and most of the smoke is resolved, I go on to the egg work, and I'm going to take the egg and go over the client just as I would if they were here. Then I break the egg open, I read the egg. That tells me a little bit more about what the client's been dealing with. Now, it's important to understand that when I do the egg work with the client, where I'm scrubbing them down with a whole egg, that it's not, the egg is still in the shell, by the way, that's not telling me what is currently wrong with the client. It's telling me what was wrong with the client before I scrub them down with the egg, because I'm then going to break it and read it, and that by that time it's trapped in a jar. So I do front and back of each side of the client through the proxy vessel. I have done the sage, I have done the egg, and then I'm going to finalize it with either more healing energy depending on what the client needs, and I will sit here for as long as that client needs until I get a solid read at the end showing that all the chakras are firing in a healthy fashion and that I don't have any negative energy or feelings left for this client. The client feels good and clean and clear. Then what I'm going to do is do a sweeping. I have a pheasant wing that I use that I load down with Florida water or cut and clear spray, and I just sweep the proxy vessel completely so that they are totally cleaned out, getting the last remnants of any negativity that might be left in this client. And after I finish that, I'm going to top it off with some 7 African Powers blessing spray. That has usually finalized the reading. I'll do one last check to make sure that the client is still, all the chakras are happy and healthy and doing what they're supposed to do. Make sure the client still feels good from this end, and then we call it a healing. And I'll type out a report, send it to the client, let them know what's going on. So that's what I do when I am doing a proxy vessel reading, proxy vessel cleansing on a client, and then I'm going to reset the vessel and clean it all out so that that person is no longer connected to it, and then Barracuda waits for his next client who's going to come along and he can assist with that healing. So that's how I use proxy vessels. People do it in different ways. But that's my method, and I hope that this gave you a little insight as to what I do for a healer and ways that you can use proxy vessels to facilitate healings for people who are at a distance. Thanks for being here, and everyone take care. If you are looking for me, you can find me at www.crossroadsoccult.com. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.